Hey, here from Appalachia, I'm Charlie, and today we're going to talk about National Preparedness Month on Friends Drift In.
For old-fashioned recipes and your gardening needs, while sipping on Kentucky bourbon. You sit right back in your big red hat, we're taking rural back from the urban. Listen to the stories where Kentucky is proud, share the giggles with all of your friends. You're all tuned in to Friends Drift In.
Hey, it's Joyce.
I'm Charlie.
We're Friends Drift In. Welcome back if you're new, or if you're an old subscriber, an oldie but a goodie, and welcome if you're new. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, y'all. It's Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend, yes.
Labor Day weekend. We've been busy.
We've been
cooking.
laboring.
We have been laboring. We have been cooking up some jam and playing with our baby cats and running with the dog and keeping mom happy and doing lots of things. But today we wanted to talk to you about sort of current events, not really, but sort of in light of current events. And we want to talk about National Preparedness Month.
Yes, National Preparedness Month is a huge thing that you really need to look into, and we dodged a bullet this last week. We had
Praise God.
Ida came through and dropped 3 inches of rain one day, gave us a break, and then dropped 2 the next day, but not enough to flood us. But we were prepared and ready for that.
We were ready for it. If it flooded, we were ready, but we cats, we prayed real hard about it, and we missed the bullet. But when we talk about National Preparedness Month, I mean, I guess I've been a little aggravated this last couple of weeks because some of the prepper community, they've just been all gloom and doom, you know. The sky is falling, and certainly we have had a lot of traumatic events over the last couple of weeks with Ida and Afghanistan, and a lot of things that have gone on. Here in Pike County, the COVID rate is very high.
Yes.
Very high. So there's a lot of things that are weighing on us, and I don't make light of that. But the sky is not falling, you all. So don't get scared. Get prepared. You know, one of the things that you have to consider when you're on a homestead, and especially if you're out in the country like we are, you know, if we called an ambulance, we know that it would be probably a 30-minute call for them to get here. You know, if we called the fire department, it's probably 20 minutes. You know, that fair?
Yeah, maybe. You know,
Yeah,
sometimes faster.
Sometimes faster, but you know, that would be within what I would be expecting of. And I mean, when you're out in the country, you kind of got to fend for yourself and at least have a plan. You know, it may not be that plan A works. It may be that you need plan B and plan C. But if you've got a clear path of how you think that you will respond when a disaster or if a disaster comes, then you're in better shape. You know,
You are. I mean, you know, thing you got to remember, like where we live out in the country, if we'd had the flood and we'd had an emergency, we'd had to wait on a boat to come and get us because, you know, we would seriously, we're not kidding, because we can be cut off. We have to go overland, and I don't even know how we would get out of here overland. But you know, but you got to worry about stuff like that. So you got to have enough things. You know, you got to have first aid supplies. You got to have food. You got to have water. All those things put back for at least minimum 2 weeks time.
Minimum of 2 weeks. That's what FEMA recommends, 2 weeks. And of course, you know, we know, I mean, we're used to flooding. Don't mean that we like it, but we have been through the floods. And we've seen some very awful floods here in our part of the world. And certainly you never lose heart of that for the people that are affected. But we've seen them and we know how to react. We know, you know, if the water is running, that you don't drive your car through it. You know, we know that if we don't get our tractor out of the field, it's going to get flooded. You know, that happened to us this spring?
Yeah.
This spring, and Charlie has been running like a madman trying to get the tractor out. The tractor, what happened? A starter went bad?
Had a starter go out, so you couldn't find a starter, and a new starter to order was $500, and it had to take 2 weeks to get here. And we got thank goodness, got a local friend that runs this local starter shop. He rebuilt it for me in one day on a Saturday of all days. Give a big shout out to him. Appreciate Greg taking care of us like that. And So got up that morning, took it off, took it over there, and said, can you get this fixed by Monday? So if it floods, I don't want to lose my tractor. And he said, well, let me look at it. And then he called me about 4 o'clock, and I went back and got it, put it back on,
It worked.
started right up, drove it out of there.
Got that tractor out of danger, out of harm's way. And I mean, sometimes you don't think about these things. It's just like he had gone down to get it when we had a storm a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, not even a few weeks ago, just a few days prior to that, we had a little storm. And he thought, well, I'll go down and get the tractor out of the field. And
The starter went out.
the starter went out, and he'd come
back.
back soaking wet and mad. And I can't blame him. But one of the things that we always do with our vehicles, we've got a go bag in our car. Both of us have go bags, and we've got dry clothes in there for
Thank goodness.
one. Dry clothes, extra hat, extra dry socks, a few snacks, a slicker or two, helps a little bit.
You never know what you're going to find out if you could be caught in. We could be caught between, like this happened. We had a flash flood locally, and some people got caught. And you could see trucks and cars sitting as the water came up so fast that it caught them right there in the middle if they weren't ready for it. But you can get caught in places where you can't get to anything else, and you've got to have that to survive with. Not really to survive, but to stay comfortable, I guess.
Stay comfortable.
In the short term.
Even just having a little bit of nabs while you're waiting for the water to go down. I mean, it's just kind of gives you a little bit of peace of mind. Having your phones charged, having flashlights. So each part of the country has different things that they need to prepare for. And National Preparedness Month, of course, kind of brings that to the forefront. We looked at one of in the prepper community, Jason, up in New York, who is a firefighter. And they got hit so hard with all that flooding, and not only was it was traumatic for them, but because the drivers, if you were out on the streets, the drivers had no clue how to deal with it, and so that made matters even worse. And so sometimes, it sounds crazy, I'm going to prepare for a flood, and you live in New York City. Well, you got to think about it. And it sure made me think, because, we were heartbroken for the people in Louisiana and Mississippi. We got a lot of friends down in the South. And it's serious, that's serious. But even though it's serious and our heart broke for them, we felt like New York was like a fish out of water, so to speak, because it just wasn't something that they even had ever considered. Come here. Yep. So it's all good. It's all good. But our two biggest things when it's this time of year, can y'all see Sophie?
No, she's not up there tall enough.
Sophie, you're not tall enough, but old Sophie is here, the wonder dog.
They can probably hear her.
So we are, the two things that we worry most about here on the homestead, here at the barn, is we worry about flooding.
Well,
the
three
cats
things.
and the dogs. We worry about flooding, and we worry about winter storms.
Winter storm, high wind, flooding, and
winds,
landslides. Not
earth
landslides, but just I guess it's slides. That's what we call it. They're not.
And so that's the things that we prep. If we're going to prep, that's what we prep the most for. Of course, we've got to. We're canners. This is Appalachia. That's what people do. We can. We can and put back, but that's just simply kind of the way of life. That doesn't mean that we're little tin hat people. It's what we've always done. It's what our grandparents did. It's what our great grandparents did. Right. Our parents. We've always canned and had food put back and grown it. And there's a satisfaction in that, knowing where you are.
And it's better. It's better for you, and it tastes better too.
It tastes
let's
better.
Be honest, we like that.
And we don't have as much additives in it. We know where it came from and how it was produced, and of course we are better processors.
Yes.
We're not just home canners. We are better processors. We've been through the federal classes, the USDA classes, and jumped through all kinds of hoops so that we can produce gourmet jams and jellies right here in Appalachia with family-owned business, Friends Drift In. Look for the link below where you can order your jams, because y'all know you need a good jam.
Shout out to Fungi Holler, who came by from watching us on the YouTube channel and picked up some jam today. Appreciate that, young man.
Fun guy. He lives right down the road from us. And we want to shout out to our buddy over in Martin County, Jared.
Jared.
At Flutie Lick. They've survived the flooding, and his family's been battling the sea, and we're hoping that he gets well real quick. And we want to shout out to Freedom Homestead down in western Kentucky. They're getting ready to move back into their house, and that has been such a big drama with them, and we're so excited that they're able to get some peace and normalcy, you know, because that had to be, that's just, to almost lose your house is surely stressful, and something that you could not really have prepared for. I mean, who's prepared for their house wall to just collapse underneath? I mean, you know, you can't prepare for everything, but you need to consider where you are.
And what the threat is, what you're like if you live out, you know, if you're in Tornado Alley, you're going to look for tornadoes, make sure you got a safe place to go, and make sure there's food and water in that space in case you have to stay there for an extended period of time.
One of the things that kind of shocked me, you know, you were reading that article about, was it Hurley, Virginia?
Yes.
Hurley, Virginia, and of course, water down here in Appalachia is an issue. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on with it because of the coal mining, because of this, because of that. You know, getting water. I mean, we are on city water, even though we're way out in the boony teams.
Right.
But you know, the Hurley, did they say that it could be up to a year?
Could be up to a
Is
year.
That what they said?
To get water.
Water restored. So I mean, water. You know, the number one priority, you know, of everybody that is thinking, whether you're a prepper or whether you're not, is to have some extra water back. You know, when I was little, you know, if we knew that snow was coming and it might freeze, because I lived up north a little bit further than here, and we worried about the water freezing off. You know, we would always, the first thing Mama would do would be fill the bathtub with some water, just so we had some extra water to flush the toilet or whatever, especially, you know, during a snowstorm. But you know, where you are and what your threats are is how you need to approach, you know, preparedness. There's simple things that you can do. I mean, you know, flashlights, having your cell phone charged, having your computer charged. We've got a lot of games. You know, we've got a lot of games around, board games. We're a board game family, and you know, if we're going to get stuck for an extended time, we're not going to kill each other unless it's over a Monopoly board.
Yeah, you gotta have something to keep your mind occupied as well. You know, of course, you gotta make sure if you got animals, you gotta have animal food, whether they're pets or whether they're livestock. Food and water for them, and you know, storage. You know, we've got big storage tanks for our high tunnel in case it gets bad down there for water. You know, we've got battery powered fans that keep the tops up, so we try to keep an extra battery charged for those.
For the high tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, other things that you can do when you're thinking about preparedness, Natural Preparedness Month, is we're already thinking about next year a little bit. And I mean, you know, we kind of regroup. We're still harvesting. You know, we're still pulling tomatoes. We're still pulling peppers. We'll probably be doing that. We're in Zone 6B, USDA Zone 6B. We'll probably be harvesting for another 3 weeks. That'll be significant, and then they can go. You know, we've had them go on up into Thanksgiving and Christmas if it's mild.
We've had this hot weather. This time was really hard on our tomatoes. This time,
it's been a little.
Some of them just didn't do well after the big heat wave came through. We're hoping this cooler weather will revive them, but we don't know.
You know, it is what it is. But you know, we look forward to next year, and you know, planning, and you know, we save seeds. You know, we save seeds of some of our heirlooms, and of course, you know, we buy seeds of some of the other ones and get them ahead, so there's no big rush. Now that we're not growing for the farmer's market, of course, we kind of do it at our own pace. We don't have to get it out so early just to make something be ready by a certain time for the farmer's market. We're on our own schedule. But saving seeds is definitely, you know, I mark that under preparedness. You know, having seeds that you could start your tomato plants in the house, or start them, you know, in your I've lost that word, Charlie.
High tunnel?
Not in the high tunnel. It's not an incubator.
Your greenhouse or your chamber.
Propagation chamber. I don't know why that just didn't come to me, but it just didn't. So that's something that, you know, we think about a year ahead. It used to be before the that, you know, as the days would go by, all, you know, from January to, you know, April or May, every time I'd go to the grocery store, I would buy a couple of packs of lids for canning. Now, of course, now we, you know, if you're thinking about preparedness and being ready to put food up, if you see lids, you better grab them, because certainly on the consumer end, they're just hard to find, and they're limited in what we can get even as commercial producers for our jams and jellies. Something that you don't think about maybe as you prepare is we talk about the grocery stores a little bit, and I don't shop Walmart, y'all. I'll just tell you, I don't. But I've seen so many of the prepper community and the Homestead community posting all of these videos about how stripped down their Walmart store was, and how, you know, they're starting to, if they had a pasta aisle, then pasta was 12 foot, you know, it shrunk down to 6, and that it, even when it was shrunk down to 6, that it's stripped out. And so, not being familiar with Walmart, I took 2 weeks in a row when I shopped at Walmart, which is something I don't do. But what I saw was there were some holes, but it was certainly not the holes and the just looked like devastation like
Right.
it was when we first did the shutdown. Now, does that mean that there's not shortages, that there's not, you know, hiccups in the supply chain? Certainly not. But if you all are thinking of putting food back, don't think you have to go out and spend $2,000 or $3,000 all at once when you don't have the money to do it, but you're scared. Don't do it. Start and just use slow and steady. You know, slow and steady wins the race. I mean, for us, you know, I see some of these people, they go out and they'll buy a whole case of greens. Let's just say greens, because I like greens. You know, a case of 12. Well, if they're buying that one case, it's all come from the manufacturer out of that one case, that's going to be the same batch number, it's going to be the same expiration date on it, or use by date, and y'all can, you know, use by, that's up to you to decide, you know, how valid you think that is. But, nonetheless, I mean, if there's just the two of us to feed, I don't want to have 12 cans of greens on hand that have the same expiration date, because that puts pressure on me. So, you know, I'll pick up a can of greens, you know, a couple cans this week, and 2 or 3 weeks more, I'll pick up another couple cans. And if you keep doing it, and you get in the habit of doing that, just adding a little bit at a time, you get that break in the expiration dates, and you slowly build without blowing this monstrous hole in your budget. It boggles my mind, you know, and I know people are scared. Sometimes we get scared too. But, you know, you just can't go out and do that. You just need to take it easy, you know, a little at a time. That way everybody has the chance to get out there and get it. You're not stripping, you know, you're not stripping the stores down. You're building, you know, you're doing it in a rational, I need this, you know. For me, you know, one of the things that we keep on hand for, especially in the summer, because when we're too busy to really cook, is manwich. I grow a lot of tomatoes. We grow a lot of tomatoes. We got a lot of tomato sauce. We got a lot of, you know, that is ours. But a can of manwich, man, you know, that's fast. Throw some hamburger on it, and we go, you know. And manwich has gone from 88 cents here to $1.19. Now that's significant. You know, that's significant. So I watch for that to go on sale, and when it goes on sale, yeah, I might buy 3 or 4 instead of 1 or 2. But when you start planning, then you can take advantage of those sales. You know that, all right, this is something we use, and something that has benefited us in, as we do a little bit, you know, keeping our food. You know, I'll take 2 or 3 weeks and I won't go to the store. And that kind of shows me what we're using and what is sitting on the shelf. You know, what are we using, what is sitting on the shelf? And then that changes over the seasons. And I think that's kind of cool that National Preparedness Month is in, it is at a seasonal change. Because I think about, for our go bags, we change the clothes that we put in them.
Right.
We'll put some, for summertime, maybe we've got a t-shirt and maybe a little light cardigan or a rain slicker or something like that. But it gets into wintertime, I want maybe a sweater and a sweatshirt. So evaluating as the seasons change is a good thing. And the same goes with your food storage, During the summer, we know that we don't eat like we should.
Right.
We eat on the run. Now, when the harvest season is over, we eat a lot better. We eat good meals, and we're not rushed, and it's a little more civilized. No beanie weenies, y'all. So, as you change from the season and you think about preparedness and you think about that comfort food, soups and that type of thing, hot cocoa, coffee, those are the things that you prepare for winter, whereas in the summer you might be picking up, lunch meat or, just a little bit ahead.
Oh yeah, you got a lot of things. You got to think about right now as the time changes or the season change, we have shorter days. I get to sleep in a half an hour more a day now because I can't get out until I can see. It don't get daylight here until right at 7 a.m. When it was getting daylight at about 6. So I was getting up at 5:30 and we were working, trying to get in the high tunnel, get all that work done before it gets hot. So, you got to think about lighting. You got to think about flashlights, battery, check all the flashlight batteries, check all your smoke detector batteries and all that stuff at a seasonal time.
Seasonal time. You check it, something that I start doing about another month or so. It's a little early now, but I start dragging out the flannel sheets and I'll run them through the washer and get them freshened up and bring out the fuzzy pajamas. He can't wait till I bring out my fuzzy pajamas, y'all. So I get my fuzzy pajamas out and make sure that our winter blankets, we've got blankets and our heaters have got propane, if we need to use a little room heater if the power goes out or something crazy. But it's this time of year where you could kind of evaluate that.
Power can go out for many different reasons here. Most of the time it goes out because of high winds, snowfall, cold.
Charlie sneezed.
Yeah, well, the power does
it
go off
goes
a lot
off
here.
a lot here in Appalachia,
but
y'all.
of course, but you gotta understand, they run through a lot of forest land,
mountains and
so
woods.
it's a lot harder to keep up. But the high winds mostly weight of snow and ice and flooding, is our biggest problems with power outages. Every occasion there'll be the accident that'll tear down a pole.
Yeah,
or
somebody will
something.
hit a pole or hit the power station.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens, but it's just, we say that we're growing a good life here in Appalachia, and I think one of the reasons that we're growing a good life is because that we farm. We are semi self-sufficient. Of course, I go to the grocery store. I don't do everything. I don't think that you have to do that. There is no hard and fast rules about being a homesteader. It's great when you're young, when you can do all that, and you're not having 3 other jobs on top of it. But he's an insurance guy. He does sports, and we farm. So that there's a lot going on in our lives, a lot. And plus we've got Mom. Mom doesn't live with us, but Mom is a big concern of mine. I want to make sure that she's well taken care of. And you run and you run and you run and you play these head games. Well, I'm cheating if I go to the grocery store and buy a head of lettuce. Well, that's bull.
The thing too is, you do what you do well.
Yes.
And then if the situation got to where you couldn't go to the grocery store, then you got an item to barter with somebody else that does something that you don't do
Honey
very
or
well.
sorghum
Right.
or jam. Y'all,
Yeah,
jam,
milk,
jam.
bread, whatever, everybody.
Eggs.
Yeah.
It's good to support, and that's something else with preparedness. Having a network
Yes.
of support people. I always check on Mom when there's an emergency, but we also have, people that don't live here that check on us when they think there's an emergency, and we check on them when we think there's an emergency where they are, just so they've got a lifeline that somebody knows where they are and if they're okay.
Right.
And what needs to be done, and networking and having those phone numbers either programmed into your cell phone or written down or both. Redundancy is good. One is none, two is better. But being prepared helps lower your blood pressure, y'all. It's just like you kind of go into the robot mode. Everybody's got a job to do, and you just do what you can. So, yeah, the world is in bad shape, y'all. We grieve a lot over what's going on in the world. But at the same time, we know that we are as prepared as we can be.
Right.
We have tried to make plans. You're never going to be done preparing. You're never going to plan for every contingency, because who knew there'd be a flood in New York City? You're never going to be totally prepared. But if you can keep your head, and not panic, you're going to be so much better off. And if you've thought these things through, it's just easier.
It is. I mean,
it's just easier.
If you the unknown is what's the scariest thing, is facing the unknown. But if you're prepared for what you think could happen, then it's not the unknown anymore.
It's you've thought it through, and it maybe plan A, B, and C don't work, but at least you have got a plan, and that's the big thing. So I don't know what else we can really talk about. We were getting ready to do a couple of shows, but it looks like Kentucky's rate is really high. So in an abundance of caution, a lot of our festivals have been canceled.
Right.
And that's the way that is. And we hope that you all can help us pick up the slack. Order some jam below, because we made a whole lot of jam getting ready for these festivals.
Yep.
Sophie, come here. You're driving me crazy. Come here.
Come on.
Come way up.
Get up here. Come on, let everybody get a look at you. Come on, come here, Sophie. Come here.
Sophie, come here. And she's gonna come to me. Tip it over. Tip it so that they can see. Sophie, our wonder dog, y'all.
I don't know if I can. Me get behind it
you
here.
can do it.
Me get behind this little thing here. There you go.
Sophie.
She's a character, is what she is. See that back where we belong?
Yeah, close. So, y'all need to evaluate where you are and what you're doing, whether you're in a homestead, whether you're in an urban setting, whether you're Kentucky proud or you're California proud or you're, Yankee proud even. Hi to our friends in New York. We love you.
Yeah, sorry about the mess. I mean, who thought of a hurricane going all the way up the coast? I've never heard of it.
It's just crazy. And I mean, we did get a lot of rain, but thankfully,
it was spaced out enough that we didn't have flooding. So.
It just didn't bother us. So we're blessed, and we hope that that maybe our advice or our sharing our experiences blesses you in some way. Remember to subscribe. Hit the subscribe below. Remember to consider National Preparedness Month. Check out the FEMA site. Check out some of the other disaster sites, and think about putting together a go bag. Think about putting together, an emergency plan. Think about having a little bit of water back, and some propane for heating as it gets a little cooler in the season. But most of all, just think about how much you love your family and how much you want to take care of them. So until we catch you we hope next week. It may be 2 weeks with what busy as we have been, but until we see you again, remember, I'm Joyce.
I'm Charlie.
We're Friends Drift In, and we love y'all. Thanks for stopping by.